Hi, I'm Dave with Louette, and we have the new Jane's 16 shaft loom here, and I'm going to do an assembly video and talk a bit about different features. We've got two models, the 50 centimeter, so it's about 20 inches, and the 70 centimeter, about 27.5 inches. I've got them both here, and we'll show them in different aspects through the process. So first thing we'll do is open up the box. I'm going to use a little knife here. And you see, right now we have things packaged one way. So for the first series that's being delivered in 2023, this is how they're packaged. All the accessories are in here, and you've got the loom. That will be different in future models. We've manufactured these boxes or constructed them here out of cardboard. We've got wooden sides here. That's not going to be the case in future. So when you're seeing this video a year or so from now, then you're going to see some differences. So I want to make that clear. So I'm going to pull the loom out here, and I'm going to put it on top of the box. And this is the hardware box, and we'll open that up and then come back. Okay, so we have the 50 centimeter and the 70 centimeter beside each other on the table now. There's a slight difference in packaging on this first series that I wanted to point out. We do not have the toggles on this section on the 50 centimeter, and the toggles are shown here on the 70 centimeter, and this is how each of these two looms are going to be received in this first series. In the future, the toggles will be tucked in underneath here, and we're going to have this this box and all the goodies that are in this box. They are going to be in a box that's actually used as packaging inside here. It'll be about this wide all the way across. So just so you understand the differences when you see the video and when you a year from now versus now, what differences there may be. So with that said, I'm going to continue on assembling the 50 centimeter loom. So here we have everything inside the inside box, and I'll start to unpack that here. In this case, with the 50 centimeter loom, we have the parts. Here's the toggle block and shaft bars and tie-on apron bars, all of our shaft sides, and all the various hardware bits and heddles and tools and that kind of thing. So let's get about starting this assembly. Okay, so I've got the this bag of hardware, the feet and buffers. I'm just going to open that up. I'll put them on the table here so we can access them, hopefully without letting them fall. Okay, so the second bag of screws here that I need for this step, and we'll put those out. And we have to open that sub bag. Don't need all these screws in this particular shot, but I need some of them. So the first step is to take the feet. So you've got the loom positioned so that it's upside down. These are the four positions where the little feet are going to go, and I'm going to tap them in. And when you're tapping these in, then you're going to feel or hear a difference in sound as they get to the bottom. Hear that? That's solid, that's in. Okay, so you notice that I left the packaging in place here. It's just easier to move the loom around upside down, right side up, while this all stays together as opposed to things flopping around. Next, I'm going to take the buffers. That's these little rubber feet and one of the small, I think they're 17mm screws. And we've got 4 spots, one here, small pre-drilled holes here, and then 2 over here. And we'll put those, screw them into place. And the last one. So now the loom can stand up on its side on the buffers, and you're not going to scratch the wood any further. So we'll reposition and go to the next step. Okay, so I've got the 2 35mm screws and one of the handles. These are the warp beam handles, cloth beam handles. So we're just going to screw them into place. I like to push it all the way through, and then it's easy to find the hole that it goes into. And take your screwdriver, or if you have a electric drill, you can do that. Makes the wrist turning easier. And there you go. One of the changes we made to the for this chain is we changed the position of the pawl actually just slightly, and so it just has a little bit nicer action here. And we're going to take the second handle. There we go. And next now we can take the packaging off. So I'm just going to slice this away. Scissors is probably a little easier. Pair of scissors. Nice and secure. It's a good thing. There we go. This is just protective buffer. Okay, and now it's all loose and free, and we're going to reposition the loom, and we'll attach the toggle block. Okay, so now we're going to install the wheels for the 16 shafts 9 through 16. We still do this while it's folded, because once we unfold and install the shelf, then the shelf is sitting here and you have less room to move your wrench, so it just makes the installation of the wheels a little more difficult. So that's why leaving it in this position is the easiest way. So you'll see most likely you have either a little cap like this. Oops, all butterfingers right now. A little cap like that, or you've got a nut on the end of the bolt. Both can be removed and are not needed at all. They're just to keep the wheels in place. So this is what we're doing. We're putting the bolt into this hole, and we're going to turn it all the way in. And here's my wrench. And you want to make sure, if you have to remove this after doing it the first time, you want to make sure you grab the same thread that you are using when you're first installing, because the metal is cutting a thread into the hole that was pre-drilled, and if you run that a couple of times back and forth, you're simply going to remove that thread, and you're going to have problems with the wheels being loose. And so you just turn this until you want it tighter than, you don't want these moving around too much. You can just turn it till it's snug and make sure these can still move, which they can. And then we do that on the other side. Yeah, that's good. Okay, now we're going to the front. Large rollers, that's something I didn't mention. You see these are the smaller rollers on the bottom, larger rollers on top. Make sure you get that correct, as the two sizes make a difference. And this is, you can see where my hands are, and you'll see in a minute when we're installing that shelf. It just makes it a little easier to be able to turn this wrench round and round rather than having to deal with the shelf in the middle. You see I'm just adjusting a little bit so there's a little bit of room. Wheels are turning nicely. And the bolt is going into the wood almost to the end. You'll see that actually on the bolt on the other side is actually just flush with the wood here. On the flip side, it's about the same. So, but by just tightening it in so that you've got just a bit of play, that gives the right distance. Okay, now we're going to unfold the loom and install the shelves. So when you're unfolding the loom, you have to lift the loom a little bit. I'll show you why. If I've got the loom not lifted a little bit, you see right over here, these rollers hit the table. So rather than putting that kind of pressure on things, lift the loom slightly and lift it up. And now we're going to take the small M6 star knobs and you're going to insert it right here, and this locks the loom in place in an upright position. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'll go ahead and do that right now. Now, one thing that's very important to point out here is that when you are trying to fold the loom, some people with the Jane 8 shaft would try to leave these star knobs on. So let me take it all the way off. And I want to just leave it on so that they don't have to take it all the way off because they're afraid of losing it. Problem with this is that as you fold and unfold a few times, you're going to develop a real deep groove here, and you're going to make marks that don't need to be there. So my suggestion is remove it completely when folding, because you also need to use these to lock the loom folded later on. Okay, so we're going to fold the loom, and I'm just going to take this star knob off on the other side, and we'll take this one off over here. As soon as you do, it's going to want to start moving. One thing you'd be careful about is you don't want to get the beater caught on the plastic catches here. So just let the loom fold like it wants to, and then just gently start letting the beater go in with it, and then it'll fall nicely in place. Otherwise, if you push the beater all the way back right from the beginning, you're going to get the bar here caught in behind these clips, and then it won't fold. All right, so the point of this was to show you what you do with these star knobs when the loom is folded, and that is you put them right here, and this locks your loom in place. Put this one in on the other side, but it locks the loom in place so you can lift it up and move it, and this is with a warp on or without, and nothing is going to go flying or opening up. It's just locked into place, so that's a really handy feature. And I'm going to unfold this again, and we're going to get back to installing the shelves that we were initially talking about. Yeah, notice I didn't lift the front, and it went a little bit rougher. So you can do it, and what I was doing is I was lifting the top here, pushing upwards, so it wasn't as much pressure on those wheels in the bottom here. But ideally, when you're unfolding, lift the front of the loom slightly to ease the pressure on the bottom wheels. Okay, so now we have this in place, and we're going to install this. Okay, so we're going to put the toggle block in place. I'm going to screw that in from here. Just preset my screw so it's going in slightly, and then just sticking through just slightly so it's easier to locate the hole here. You can do that with your finger or with the screwdriver. And then once we're here, we are doing this and screwing in place like this. Long screw. Oops. There we go. Nice and secure. And then the next step will be putting the second shelf on. And now we want to use these two small, funny looking screws, and they're going to lock in the new system that we use to lock the shelf in place. And just screw it in until it's tight. It is possible to get these in slightly crooked, so you want to try to make sure they're straight. And the last step here, you see this has a little bit of a notch here and here. We're going to put those on top of these special screws. Okay, so inside here you've got a little screw head, and that's connected to a locking system. So if I go in and put the screwdriver in place, then you see the locking mechanism close. I'm just going back and forth so you can see it opening and closing. Okay, and what we're doing is we're going to, you see there's a groove in this special screw, and that locking mechanism has to clamp around that. Okay, the easiest way to do that is to flip the loom, not the room, flip the loom upside down, and then we can access it nice and easy. So I'm going to do that next. Okay, we're going to flip the loom over here. Now just be careful, because if you don't watch the position of the beater, it'll again get caught on the clips here. Okay, so we want to just lift up like this. So the beater just lies on the table, and I think that fluid motion was probably the easiest way to do that. I'll try to position this as best we can for the camera here. I'm going to take my piece and position it like this. So you're just pushing it onto those special screws. Somebody's going to tell me there's a specific name for these things, I am aware, but they're escaping me right now. So I'm going to put my screwdriver in there. That one's locked, nice and easy. I find what I've found is that those mechanisms are a little snug. See, the shelf is in place, it's locked, it's nice and tight. But those special screws inside there, they're really tight. That locking mechanism is really tight. So before you try to install it, if you just move it with the screwdriver a couple of times, makes it, it loosens it up and makes it easier. All right, we'll flip things back over and keep going. Now we've got the loom back straight, sitting upright. Just take your hand and wiggle the shelf. If it's not good and snug, like this one is good and snug, what you're hearing is the beater going back and forth, not the looseness of this. So if I hold that, it's not moving anywhere. But if yours is not really snug, that means that your locking screw is not completely locked. It's halfway. So go back and repeat that step until that shelf is good and snug. Okay, so now we're going to put together the harnesses. So you've got the 2 bags of 16 each harness ends and the 2 packs of 16 harness bars. So you can take them apart. And cut this open. And I'll do a couple here to show you how this works, and then we can do the rest off camera and we'll come back and show the heddles. So really it's just a press in, and we're doing one on each side. You're just doing one side of them, and so put them all together like that and make a pile of all 16, and then we'll show you the next step of adding the heddles to them. Okay, so I've taken the liberties of preparing some of the heddle bunches the way I'd like to use them, and I just want to explain that, what I mean by that. All textile heddles are one continuous long string with a loop at the top, and we keep these ties in them to keep them organized, otherwise you would have a nice mess on your hands. When they're all on the shafts, if the loops are still connected, then they're harder to slide along the shaft and move them around. So I always cut the ends like I've done here and with all the other bundles here. So what you do is, first of all, get a sharp pair of scissors. Doing that with dull scissors is more difficult. You just slide them in a loop and snip. And you just kind of go around and snip these. And if you miss one or two, you can always do this while it's on the loom. The heddles are on the harness bars. But the one thing that I've heard people do accidentally is cut the elastic cords that are used for the loom when you're doing it on the loom. So that's the challenge. If you do it on the loom, you got to be very careful. So preparing in advance doing this is the easiest. So we take the scissors off. Next step is putting the heddles on the harness bars. So there's a reason why we left one end off, and that is so we can slip the harness bar over the end, and so you put one in the top and one in the bottom. And so let me further explain that. If we take another bundle of heddles, you've got a clear loop here where those ties have gone. Actually, I got this one mixed up a bit. Just got to make sure that the ties are very clear and distinct, and you don't have any heddle in between them. And that's where your harness bar is going to go, right where my fingers are. Okay, and so you separate that, slide them over the harness bar just like I've done, And now you can take the ties off. But before I finish this, I've got 800 heddles for the 50 centimeter loom. If you've bought more heddles, then these numbers are going to be different. On the 70 centimeter loom, you have 1200 heddles. So you need to do the math and figure out how many heddles you want on each harness bar. And if you want more heddles, then you'll need to buy them, or maybe you wanted colored heddles, then you'll need to have them ordered with your loom. So in order to split this bundle, so since we have 16 shafts, 800 heddles, we're going to split them into a bunch of 50. And I'm not going to count them specifically, I'm going to ballpark it. So what I do is you take the ties off first, like this, just undoing the twist tie. All four. And just make sure you don't let them slide off, because otherwise you're going to want something like a heddle helper to reorganize all your heddles that have fallen on the floor. There we go. So the heddles are all loose here. Now what I'm going to do is take another harness bar, and I'm going to lift this up and slide it in underneath. And you're just making sure that you get through all of the heddles so that you're not missing any. And there's one loose that's sitting there. There we go. You slide that through like this. And then with them all overlapping like this, now you can just split them apart slightly and look at the bundle. Yeah, I've got this one a little bit too many on the one side. That's about right. If you want to count them out specifically, go ahead. Now is a great way to just count them through. So you put 50 on one side, 50 on the other. If you're like me, I'll ballpark it. If I really need more, I'll add another time. But to each your own. When you're done with this point, then we're going to take one and simply remove it and take a harness end. And now see, we've got the end on this side. We need to make sure that we put the similar end of the next harness end on the top like that, because you need, in the end, you're going to put your shaft cords through these holes, so they both need to be facing up. If you have one up and one down, not going to work. Okay, so you go through and that process for all of the harnesses, and here I'm going to put the harness ends on this one, and you can spread the heddles out a bit, or you can do that later. That's your choice. It doesn't really matter whether you do it now or later. Some will argue that it's easier to do it while sitting in your hand than waiting and doing it on the loom. That's totally up to you. Now we'll keep doing the rest of this stack off camera, and we'll come back and hang the harnesses. Okay, now we're putting the elastic on the harnesses. So we've got two bundles. You probably have an extra one. We usually put 9 in a bundle so that you have an extra. So you're probably going to end up with 2 extra, but that's okay. Sometimes they, over time, they'll lose their elasticity. We sell them in bundles of 9 actually in a package that we label as 8. But these elastics are what's used to pull the harness back down into its rest position. And the tighter the elastic is, the harder it'll pull down. It's also the harder to lift the harness, but when I say harder, it's not that hard, but all the same. I'll get off that point. Take your little elastic and put it from the outside to the inside of this hole, and then you're just going to tie a knot. And in the instruction manual, you'll see a picture with a fork used to try to tighten this. My hands are strong enough to tighten that up sufficiently, but if you don't have the strength in your fingers, then you can use a fork to give it a little. Now you're going to pull it in so that the knot is right inside the groove of the harness end. And then we're going to come around the other side here, and we're going to put it through the hole here as well, and do the same thing. Tie a little knot. And tighten it. Now what happens if you're doing this and you have the harness on the loom, and a harness is not coming back to its rest position well, or if the cords are falling off the rollers, usually it's because the elastic is not tight enough. So then you would pull this out, make another knot so that it comes here, for example, just basically shortening this elastic cord. Okay, and that is what a little trick that I wanted to point out while I've got the harness like this. So now we're going to go through and do that for the rest of the 15, and then we'll come back on camera and keep going. Okay, so I've positioned the Jane on upside down. In this way you can access the castle area where the harnesses are going to be easiest. And we're going to assemble the harnesses and attach the shaft cords to keep them in place. So we've got bundles of shaft cords here, and so I've pulled one out of the bundle. We generally give you an extra one, so you have 9 times 2. So we're going to start with this. I have a little aid here, one of the little twist ties from the heddles. I'm going to use that as an aid to try to push this through when we need to. First step is taking the elastic off here, and we're going to work with harness number 9 first. We're going to do the back 8 and then the front 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And I'm going to feed this in through the back. Remove my clip, and you flip this over top. Now what I didn't tell you is that you see my length of my cord is pretty much even, so I've just folded the cord in 2 to double it before I started here. That will change as we move towards the edges, and I'll show you that as we go. So from here we're going to put the cord over top of this roller. This is an important step, because if you just slip it through the large opening here, then it's not going to work correctly. So you have to get it over top of the roller, way down here, and feed it through. I know you can't see this, the next steps on your side, but we'll make additional shots for the other harnesses to show you these steps in more detail, because that's also critical points. We're going to feed it through the rollers on this shelf, and then over to the rollers on the sides here. You can see my left hand already. Now, this harness has got the elastic is going to go over top of the bottom rollers like this. But because the bottom rollers on the back are inside the width of the harness, it kind of hangs funny until we actually attach it to the cords. So now we're going to take the first cord, and this loop that we need to do to attach the knot here is very important that you get it correct, otherwise the cords will slip. So we're going to feed it in from the outside in. And we're going to need for the first ones, we're going to need to take up quite a bit of slack, and then we'll change that as we go along, and you'll see that. So we're going to go around inside the notch, and then back under and through. And that loop slides up and gets the harness higher than the roller. Now I've tightened it a little bit too much, so we're going to back it off a little bit here. So we don't want the bottom of the harness just above the rollers. final adjustment we do later on, but that's a starting point. You also make, when you're doing all this attaching, the cord will jump from one roller to the other. So when you're finished, you just have to slip it over into the correct roller, and that is easy enough to do. So we're going to do that with the next one here. Try to do it a little more visible. So we're going from outside in and around the back. And once you're around the back, just give yourself a little bit of slack here, and you tuck the end through the loop and tighten it up. My cord just came off the roller completely, so I put it back in place. And then I'm seeing my positioning is the harness is slightly below the roller, so I want to tighten that knot up a little bit, pull it up above a little bit more. I'm not going to worry about exact height positioning or levelness left or right. That we can do once we have the loom upright. But now that harness is hanging in place as it should. Now we're going to continue, same process, moving on to harness 10, 11, 12, and so on. And we'll reposition the camera so that you can see different shots, different angles, different positions. So when you're going through this whole process, you can rewind back and forth to get the things that you need. But we'll show all the different angles for all the different harnesses. So we're going to do harness number 2. I've got my cord pre-positioned. I've folded it, but then I've slid the end over slightly, because what's going to end up happening is as we move this way, the cord on the right side is going to need to be a little bit shorter. The cord on the left side is going to need to be a little bit longer, because the path continues to change in length each shaft. So approximate that kind of differential, and we just keep increasing that as we go. So we'll start again by lifting the toggle, going in from behind, and then we remove our little helper, loop that over top. Now we're again going through here under the roller. Under this roller is very, very critical. And I'm going to take my short end, that's going to lead to the right, longer end leads to the left, because the left side has a longer path. I'm going to feed these through the rollers on the back side. And the cords will keep getting caught on you on the various rollers here, but that's okay, just guide them to the correct positioning. Another thing to do is you want to always keep these cords straight so they could easily crisscross, and you just got to, at each step, got to make sure that they're not crisscrossed. We'll show you that in a little more detail on the next shot that shows the back side here. I'm going to guide this around. And we'll attach the next harness. So here we've got my knot that I was talking about earlier. Probably get a little better angle here. So we're going in from the outside. That's correct. Around the back in the little notch. And see this little loop here? That's where we're going to stick the end from the bottom. Grab that and tighten that up. I'm going to go approximately that. Put that in the loop. Now I'm going to slip the elastic on just to give myself an idea. You notice that I'm still way below the roller, so that I need to tighten this cord a little bit more. There. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side with our knot. I'm just going to really exaggerate the position here to try to let you see this more. on the back, open my loop, and stick my end in. Go across in there. I'm going to put this in. Oh, I've slipped off the rollers in the front here. And now as such I've tightened this too much, so we're just loosening it off. It's just a very methodical process here. Just take your time with it, and while it may seem complicated, it is methodical and logical, and you just take your time to go through it. Position the cords each time where they need to be. And I know it doesn't look, they're not straight right now, they're not looking pretty right now, but that's okay. We'll sort that all out once we flip the loom over. First thing, just getting things into position. So now we'll move on to harness 11. Put this cord through the rollers underneath the previous cord. We're going to do this all the way across, but then you still got to make sure that you're not crossed up to here. I'm going to attach the cord to the shaft end. There we go, nicely positioned. And then we get the next one. Through the hole here. Again, under the two cords and through the rollers. And separate them so that left is going left and right is going right. And then we're going to tie them up. And then continue. Okay, underneath and through. And we'll keep going underneath each time, and we'll keep filling in the rest. I am filming.
Pardon?
I am filming, but can take the audio out, so don't worry about the sounds. we're going to start installing shafts 8 through 1. Started shaft 8. I've got it positioned with elastic over the rollers. Put the cords in here, same as before. And grab them here. Now guide them through. And straighten them out. Like this. Now they're going to go over top of the cords from shafts 8 through 9. So we're just going to lay them like this over top each time. You don't have to worry about going underneath the previous cord because we're going 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So just putting it through and over top. And we'll come back and watch that as it goes through. Alright, so here we are, almost finished. Just wanted to show. Okay, so here we are with, okay, so the front 8 harnesses are, the bottom roller here is a little bit wider, so the harness fits nicely between them. So the first thing you can do is just put your harness on top of the rollers with the elastic in place, and then the harness is sitting here nicely, rather than what we were doing in the back 8, where the harness is sitting on the table and you're kind of fiddling around a little bit. Just a necessity because those back rollers were inside more and the harness didn't fit very well. But you can choose, if you prefer doing it the other way, this way for the back 8, you're more than welcome to try that as well. We'll continue on here, same process. As we had before. Used toggle number 7 instead of toggle number 8. Try that again. Okay, we're going to go from the outside in, around the back, and through the loop. And then you can pull this tighter until it's keeping itself just above the roller. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Having the harness in place on the back with the elastic in place is easier for sure, but I just found it a little challenging with the spacing of the back rollers. That's why I didn't do it for the first, or for the back 8. So, a little bit low, pull the cord, pull the knot tighter to raise them up a little bit. And again, we'll position these in final positioning after all the harnesses are in place. So that's shaft 8, and we'll continue with the rest of them. Again, keep in mind that this time the left side is going to be getting shorter and shorter as we go, and we'll want the right side to be a little bit longer as we go. You may notice that I'm not using the twist tie. I find I can get the cord through the hole in the toggle easily enough, whichever way you prefer. There you probably noticed that I didn't put the harness in place initially. Not a big deal, you saw that I was able to do that afterwards. So putting the cord in place and then attaching it to the harness. And we'll continue through this process and come back when we're wrapping up adding the harnesses. Okay, so now we have all the harnesses in place, and you can see they're all over the map here. We'll have to make those adjustments. So first thing I do is take a warp stick, and I've measured 22.5 centimeters from the end, and that is because we want the shaft bars to sit at a height of 22.5 centimeters from the tabletop. Okay, so I'm going to position this in between like that, and then I'm just going to pull the tail here, which will allow me to tighten and raise this up. Now I'm going to go a little bit higher, because you'll see what happens when that knot is still a little bit loose. I push it down a little bit just to snug everything up, and you see how far down it goes. So we just go a little higher, and that just takes up the slack in that knot by just pushing down on it, and that's about where we want to be. So now I'm going to go to the other side, because left and right have to be equal, and we're going to do the same thing. How much to push down or how much to pull out, that's a little bit of experience, so you'll just need to play with that a little bit. And now you can use a measuring stick like this. You might need to get a different piece of wood or a piece of cardboard that's a little shorter that it'll fit inside the castle, or you can just use the first harness as your measuring stick. Try again on the back side with this, and that's basically what I'm going to do, is just use harness 1 as my guide and raise everything to that same height. So a little bit high, and then push it down. And that's about right. This isn't to the millimeter that you have to get it exactly right, but pretty darn close, okay? Another thing that I like to do is just do this, let it drop, and that settles things in place as well. You can get down horizontal to it a little bit and take a look to get a better angle to see if it's about the same height or not. So you're going to go a little bit higher. That looks like we've got a little too far. So if you go a little too far, you can use your nail just to peel back that cord and push them down. This one's still a little too high. Use my nail to pull it back just a bit. That one's still a little high. Okay, this one still, you can see that's a little high. That looks better. And the length of these tails that we have here, we can adjust in a few minutes. We'll snip these off once we're adjusted to something like that, and then singe the ends in order to make sure the nylon doesn't unravel. So it's just a process to go through and level these up to the height that you want. And the height is very important, because if the harnesses are too high, then your shed will be smaller. It's quite simple like that. So if you're finding your shed is just a little on the small side, you've probably raised your harnesses a little bit too high. Do a couple at a time here. Get some more in the ballpark. There, and that's looking pretty good. If we going to pick another spot here, you'll see that you're a little bit high. Looks like we've raised a little bit, so I'll lower these just a hair. Sitting nicely at 22.5. So that looks good for shafts 1 to 8, and now we'll go and do the ones on the back side. And we'll slide this in back here. I'm seeing this one's actually, this is number, I guess that's 13, no 14. It's looking pretty good. Yeah, it's good both ways. So I'm going to adjust these other shafts to the same height as 14. So 13 is a little low. We'll work my way to the front here and then do the back few. After you've started weaving a little bit, you'll get some settling a little. You'll need to adjust again. Measurement on the back side here. There, that's nice at 22.5. And over here as well. Okay, so now we've got all the harnesses level here. They're all at the right height. When you lift a harness, the heddle eye should be just coming, the bottom of the heddle eye is just below, right at the bottom of the, or the, yeah, the bottom of the harness bar here. So that's another measurement. We also, so that's all set. Now we're going to clean up the stragglers here and cut these. You'll notice that some of the elastics are sticking out a little bit here. If that's in your way, you can certainly snip them off and singe the, but make sure you singe the ends because otherwise they'll unravel. So we'll just, I just go through here and give it, leave about an inch, 2.5 centimeters. And you need to make sure you singe the ends of these with a lighter or a hot soldering iron, or we've even used some glue on the end, and that keeps it from fraying as well. So any of those ideas will help. I'll just go through and finish snipping these off, and then we'll continue with the rest of the assembly. Okay, so now we're going to clip the ends, the tails of the cords, and what you got to make sure you do is snip them off at about an inch, inch and a half, like this, and then we'll singe the ends and make sure that they don't unravel. It's nylon, so it will unravel. So use a lighter or soldering iron or some glue to make sure the ends don't unravel. The other thing you see here is the ends of the elastic cord. They stick out a little bit. If this is in your way, you can snip it off and make them smaller, singe that as well. Again, it's nylon. But those are the two things. And we'll go through and finish the rest of these cords, and then we'll come back and finish off the assembly. So here we are with all of our harnesses in place. Everything's nice and clean, and you can see how nice the toggles snap back. And everything's very smooth and fluid. Really nice, although it may have looked a little chaotic while we were assembling. In the end, it all comes out very nice. So now we've got to put the cords on the beams here, and then we'll go through showing how it fits on a stand. Okay, so now we're going to attach the apron cords to the warp beam and cloth beam. cloth beam, obviously the first one. First, thing about Texsolve cord. Here we've got loops in these cords, and you can see that it goes right through. But this is always the weakest cord. Oops, there goes my screw. This is always the first loop here is always the weakest loop because it's been cut right on the end here. And so you want to start with the second loop, not the first one. Otherwise your apron cord could let go at some point. And we're going to screw a single screw into the end right here. And this is going to, so the tail faces me sitting in front here. That's the way we want the orientation, just like we have it here. And then we're going to put the second one here, but we're also going to put the next cord. So now we're going to take the screw and we're going to put it in the second loop of the original cord, and then take a second cord underneath and put it there as well. And then tail's pointing to me. Screw that into okay. Now this loop is nice, and this one needs a partner. So again, this is the original cord, or second one actually, putting the screw in the second loop. And taking the next cord and doing the same thing. Screw catches on the loop on the way in a little bit. So you gotta fiddle with it. And these screws we're using are the 4x17 millimeter screws that were left over from that first hardware bag. It's sitting here waiting to get used. Okay, and then you can wrap around. Here. Oh yeah, silly me. I put 2 on the last one. Of course, that's not needed. You just need the. How many of you saw that while I was doing it? There we go. Okay. That's it. Now your apron cords are all in place, and then we'll use the leftover cords for the cloth beam. So we'll reposition the loom and show that side. Okay, so we're starting here to put the same cords on the warp beam. I just got started already. And we'll just take the second cord and put that there. Okay, one more. Must be sitting over here. course, don't need one more. Did the same thing again. Last cord. Oh, don't need to double up. So now from here, I'm going to take an apron bar. And the way our system works here is you just do a half hitch like this and go like that. I've also seen people just take the loop and go like this. Either one works. What you do want to do though is position the cords on the pre-made marks here as they slide away. So as I wind this on, now we're getting to the point where it's almost done here, and you've positioned these so basically it's keeping this straight by having these tie-up cords on the pre-made marks, because then the dimensions are set such that it will be equidistant and you won't have any slack in cords like this. The reason this is because I wound it up wrong. Okay, you do the same thing on the front side, and now let's show you the folding process. First of all, I want to show the rattle covers. You will get 2 pieces, short and long, with the 50 centimeter, and 3 pieces for the 70 centimeter. They just slide on from either side like this. That can hold your warp threads inside your rattle or prevent warp threads from getting onto your rattle, so that can stay in place like that. Second thing is sometimes just because of the construction here, your rattle won't be perfectly centered and it'll be rubbing on one side, and this happens because something's gotten just a hair bent, torqued while you're assembling, while you're moving things around. So you can, if it's rubbing a little bit on the left side, just torque it like that to the right side, and it just centers it, and so it's not rubbing anymore, and it'll catch on the catches over here. You've got your plastic catches. The whole point of them is to hold the beater back while you're weaving, throwing your shuttle. And if you need to adjust them, there's a little screw inside here, and you just screw that screw out, and then the plastic catch will have greater grip, or grip quicker. Okay. Last thing that I will show on a different video clip, we do have a shuttle race that we're adding, and it will replace this bottom of the beater bar, and you'll be able to adjust in height the shuttle race, and that's coming very shortly. Last thing I want to do with this shot is show you how to fold the loom. We did cover that a little bit in the original assembly, but here we'll do it again. So first we're taking these star knobs on both sides, removing them. You can see that the loom wants to move. And so we're going to hold by the beater, lift a little bit, and slide like that. Then you put these in place to lock it in place. And this folding can be done with the warp on. It actually works very well because it just locks the warp into place. Turn the loom around a little bit here to show you something else. In these ratchets, right in here, there's a little magnet, and that holds the pawl in place. So when you're folding the loom up with a warp on, you tighten up your ratchet so that your warp is all snug. That also keeps everything from moving around, keeps everything in place. But those magnets keep that pawl in place, so while you're moving your loom around, the pawl isn't going to come loose, and your warp isn't going to unwind. So now you can pick up your loom, put it on the on the feet that are on the other side there. Everything's going to stay secure. Like I said, the magnets are holding these pawls in place, and you can carry your chain wherever you need to go. Okay, here we are with the floor stand, and we're going to show how to put the loom on the floor stand. Floor stand's a nice bit of redesign in the last couple of years, where the cross piece has threaded ends on, so we can easily disconnect with those star knobs. This can then be 3 flat pieces that can easily fit in your carrying bag. For putting this loom on the stand, yes, most people want to do that standing up. I'm going to do it sitting down for sake of the shot. We've got to have the loom in its upright position. The reason for that is these bolts have to go through the holes in the castle, or in the side here, one on each side. I like to put those bolts in advance, because then when you're trying to put the loom on the stand, then those bolts will find the hole and it's just a little easier. So slide this over and lift it on, and you can just kind of rest it on top. It's not positioned right because the bolts aren't going in the hole. So then we're just gonna, there we go, let it drop into place. Got the one on the other side. Now it's not, it can fall over, but it's not gonna fall off. So you're just supporting it still. Now on the inside of the loom are barrel nuts, which I hadn't shown you yet. But a barrel nut, pull this out, see if I can, there we go. Barrel nut is a nut that sits on the inside of the wood with a little slot so that you can put a screwdriver in to position the barrel nut. And you want to have the slot that so it's vertical like this, and I'm going to position that and then drop this in. I'll show this a few times. There we go. So the key is to get the barrel nut and the bolt to fit. So what you can do is use your screwdriver to turn the barrel nut and just keep kind of wiggling it around. You'll feel it just kind of click in, and then you just turn it finger tight, and that will prevent the loom from falling off. Now it's secure. You do the same thing on the other side. Play with that barrel nut to get it to catch. Get in there yet. There we go. Okay, so a barrel nut is a nut that allows a threaded bolt to screw in, but it has a positioning slot here. And so on the other side of the floor stand, we're going to put this barrel nut like this. And if you need to, you can use a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, to turn it so that when you're putting the bolt in from the top, it is you're going to be able to catch it. So if the barrel nut is turned slightly like this, then you're never going to screw that in. It's got to be turned exactly correct in order to catch. So we're just wiggling it to get it in the groove of the barrel nut. Now it's turning in. So we're just going to get the bolt to the barrel nut, wiggle a little bit. You might need to turn the barrel nut on the inside slightly until you get the threaded portion to catch in the nut and finger tight. And then the wrench that comes with the floor stand can be used to tighten it up, make it good and secure. This way you can have a floor stand easily with you at workshops, wherever you take your loom, because of how collapsible that floor stand is. Carrying bag is not yet available, but it will be soon. We're now filming in December of 2023. By the springtime, late March-ish, I expect we'll have a carrying bag. So if you're watching this video later on, then this will be a moot point. Anyway, that's how the floor stand works, and hopefully you enjoy that.